All right, welcome everyone. My name is Tim Vasquez from the School Programs Branch for the Policy and Program Development Division within the Child Nutrition Programs here at the Food and Nutrition Service. I'm here today with my colleague, Laura Carroll. Laura is from the Community Meals Branch and oversaw the rulemaking that updated the infant, child care, and preschool meal patterns. Laura will assist me with addressing as many of your questions as we have time for after I've presented the information about the updated infant and preschool meal patterns. The meal patterns for infants and preschool-age children were updated through the April 25th, 2016 rulemaking, which updated the meal patterns for all of the age groups which fall under the Child and Adult Care Food Program. This includes infants, students in preschool, and children between the ages of 1 through 5. Please note that the milk requirements from this meal pattern update also apply to the special milk program for children. Specifically for this webinar, we are talking about changes to the infant and preschool meal patterns for the school breakfast program, the National School Lunch Program, and the National School Lunch Program after-school snack service. As I mentioned, the infant meal patterns were updated. Therefore, schools that serve infants through on-site daycare centers, for example, will need this information. However, I will not spend a lot of time on it other than to introduce the infant meal patterns. We will cover the preschool and children 1 through 5 meal patterns in more detail, followed by the implementation process and ending with available resources. To better understand the changes, let's first take a look at the previous meal patterns briefly. In the previous meal patterns, there were 4 food components in the preschool and child care meal patterns: milk, fruit and vegetables, grains, and meat alternates. There are specific requirements within each food component. For example, all juice served must be 100% juice. Okay, let's discuss the updated meal patterns, which began implementation on October 1st this year. We'll begin with the updated infant meal patterns. One of the major goals of the revisions to the infant meal patterns was to support breastfeeding. Breast milk is an optimal source of nutrients through the first year of life. Breastfed infants have lower risk of respiratory infections, diarrhea, pneumonia, ear infections, sudden infant death syndrome, and obesity. There are now 2 age groups, 0 through 5 months and 6 through 11 months. There were originally 3. The 2 new age groups encourage exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life and delay the introduction of solid foods until around 6 months of age, as recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics. Each infant has unique dietary needs and develops at different rates, so the updated meal patterns require solid foods to be served once the infant is developmentally ready. The major piece of the updated meal patterns is that it allows a school, center, or family daycare home to be reimbursed for meals which a mother directly breastfeeds her infant on site. Providers may also be reimbursed for meals when a parent provides express breast milk. For older infants, 6 through 11 months of age, a vegetable or fruit must now be served at snack time when it is developmentally appropriate for the infant. And fruit juice is no longer allowed. Requiring a vegetable or fruit at snack and prohibiting juice creates a healthier balance in an infant's diet. It also provides a foundation for consumption of vegetables and fruits early on and better acceptance later in life. FNS found this to be particularly important because a recent comprehensive study on food intakes of infants showed that a substantial portion of infants do not consume any vegetables or fruit in a given day. It is never too early to start building healthy habits. Ready-to-eat cereals are now an additional grain option at snack as proposed. Cereals are subject to a sugar limit that I'll discuss later. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that infants should eat from all food groups by 7 or 8 months of age. Based on this, the updated meal patterns allow cheese, cottage cheese, and yogurt. However, it no longer allows cheese spread or cheese food due to their high sodium content. The updated meal patterns also allow whole eggs to credit towards the meat alternate component for infants. Previously, whole eggs were not allowed due to concerns about developing allergies when exposed to the protein in egg white. The American Academy of Pediatrics recently came out saying there is no convincing evidence to delay the introduction of solid foods that are major food allergens, including eggs. Now on to preschool and children 1 through 5 meal patterns. While many of the changes to the preschool meal patterns make them more consistent with the requirements for older age groups, some of the meal pattern requirements for preschoolers are different. The preschool meal pattern is specifically designed for this younger age group and their nutritional needs. Taste preferences are formed early in a child's life, and meals served to preschoolers are a critical part of establishing healthy habits that will last a lifetime. With this in mind, the updated preschool meal patterns ensure the meals provided in the school meal programs contribute to children's wellness, healthy growth, and development. For 1-year-old children, the meal pattern requires whole, unflavored milk for children 1 year old as recommended by the National Academy of Medicine. For 2-year-old children and older, and for adults, the preschool meal patterns require low-fat or fat-free milk. This is not new, as it was already required for the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program, and is consistent with dietary guidelines. Flavored 1% milk is not allowed for preschoolers. It is important to understand that the flavored milk flexibility outlined in SP 32/2017, School Meal Flexibilities for School Year 2017-2018, only applies in the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program for kids in grades K through 12. The interim final rule, dated November 30th of this year, allowing flavored low-fat milk in school year 2018-2019 in all child nutrition programs, only applies for children ages 6 and older in grades K through 12. Non-dairy beverages are allowed following the same nutrient standard requirements as the older age groups. The updated preschool meal pattern includes a separate vegetable component and a separate fruit component at lunch, supper, and snack. This creates greater opportunity for vegetable and fruit consumption, will help increase the variety of foods children are served, and allow schools serving preschoolers to serve a vegetable and a fruit snack. It is also consistent with the older grade groups in the National School Lunch Program. Vegetables and fruit are still a combined component at breakfast meals, which is similar to the School Breakfast Program. The updated meal pattern allows 2 vegetables to be served at lunch and supper, with 1 vegetable substituting for the fruit component. If 2 vegetables are served, they must be 2 different kinds of vegetables, but they do not need to be from different vegetable subgroups. For example, a lunch may contain carrots and tomatoes, both from the red-orange vegetable subgroup. To help encourage and improve child consumption of whole vegetables and fruits, as recommended by the dietary guidelines, the updated preschool meal patterns limit juice to once per day. This is consistent with our program for women, infants, and children, referred to as WIC, which provides only enough juice for 1 serving per day per child. This change is expected to help increase children's consumption of whole vegetables and fruits. Please be aware that the juice limit for preschoolers is different from the juice limit for older grade groups in the school meal program. For all older grade groups, fruit or vegetable juice may be used to meet no more than 1/2 of the weekly fruit or vegetable requirement. Under the grains component, the updated preschool meal pattern requires at least 1 grain per day to be whole grain rich. The definition for whole grain rich in preschool is the same as the definition for older grade groups. 100% whole grain or at least 50% whole grain, and the rest of the grain is enriched. The interim final rule dated November 30th of this year, allowing exemptions from the whole grain rich requirement in school year 2018-2019, does not apply to children served in the preschool and child care setting. The updated preschool meal patterns do not allow any grain-based desserts, which is slightly different than older grade groups. The sugar limits for cereal mirror the requirements for cereals offered through our WIC program. Similar to the meal pattern requirements for older grade groups in the school breakfast program, the updated preschool meal pattern includes a flexibility to serve meat alternates in a reimbursable breakfast. Beginning this past October 1st, schools may substitute the entire grains component with a meat alternate at preschoolers' breakfasts, a maximum of 3 times per week. Please note, this flexibility is slightly different than the one provided for the older age groups. To better serve diverse populations, offer greater flexibility to the menu planner, and to be consistent with older grade groups, tofu and soy yogurt products are allowed as meat alternates under the updated preschool meal patterns. To help reduce preschoolers' consumption of added sugars, yogurt, including soy yogurt, must contain no more than 23 grams of sugar per 6 ounces under the updated preschool meal pattern. Under the updated preschool meal patterns, foods that are deep fat fried on-site cannot contribute towards a reimbursable meal. Schools serving meals to preschoolers may still purchase and serve foods that are pre-fried, flash fried, or par-fried by the manufacturer, such as fried fish sticks or potato wedges, but those foods must be reheated using a method other than deep fat frying. Central satellite kitchens are considered on-site. Therefore, meals served to preschoolers where the meal is prepared at a central satellite kitchen cannot contain a deep fried food and be claimed for reimbursement. In contrast, vended meals are not considered to be prepared on-site. Therefore, schools serving meals to preschoolers may claim a vended meal that contains deep fried food as long as the deep fried food was prepared by the vendor off-site. Naturally, this is not a practice that we encourage, as the point is to move away from serving deep fried foods. Introducing children to a variety of healthy foods and new foods at a young age can help shape their eating habits and their attitudes and preferences towards foods as they grow and mature. Because of this, offer versus serve is not considered appropriate for preschoolers. Beginning this past October 1st, schools can no longer use offer versus serve when serving meals to preschoolers. In place of offer versus serve, F&S encourages schools to serve meals to preschoolers using family-style service when possible. The family-style meal service under the school meal programs allows children to make choices in selecting foods. The supervising adult should initially offer the required minimum serving size of each food component or food item to each student. However, since replenishment is immediately available at each table, the initial serving of a food component or food item may be less than the full required minimum quantity. The supervising adult should encourage additional portions and selections to meet the full required minimum serving size as appropriate. For more information on family-style meal service in the school meal programs, please see the Offer versus Serve guidance for the National School Lunch Program and the School Breakfast Program, which became effective during school year 2015-2016. This is a high-level illustration of the updated preschool meal patterns. You can notice some of the major differences from the first chart we saw earlier. This chart shows that there's a separate vegetable and fruit component, a whole grain rich item once per day, a once-a-day juice limit, and more meat alternate options. Okay, let's discuss the implementation process. Similar to when the school meals program's meal patterns for K through 12 were updated and implemented in phases beginning in 2012, FNS is providing a transition period for child nutrition program operators implementing the updated infant and preschool meal patterns. During fiscal year 2018, which is October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2018, state agencies must provide technical assistance in lieu of fiscal action when they observe violations related to the updated meal pattern requirements. As long as child nutrition program operators are making a good faith effort to comply with the updated preschool requirements, meals cannot be disallowed and child nutrition program operators cannot be found seriously deficient when meals fall short of the updated infant and preschool meal pattern requirements during this transition period. State agencies should work with child nutrition program operators who are not meeting the updated meal pattern requirements to identify actions necessary in order to do so. As currently required, state agencies must continue to take immediate fiscal action if a meal is completely missing one or more of the required food components. FNS is allowing a single menu flexibility when preschool and K through 5 students are in the same meal service area at the same time for commingled situations. Commingled schools may choose to follow the grade-appropriate meal patterns for each grade group or serve the K through 5 meal pattern to both grade groups. FNS strongly encourages schools to find ways to serve grade-appropriate meals to preschool and K through 5 students. School food authorities should work with their state agency to find solutions to serving students grade-appropriate meals prior to using the single menu flexibility. School food authorities should use the transition period during this school year, 2017-2018, to identify strategies to successfully serve grade-appropriate meals when preschool and K through 5 students are commingled. Under the updated infant and preschool meal patterns, grain-based desserts cannot count towards the grain requirement at any meal or snack beginning this past October 1st. In the proposed rule, the majority of commenters supported no longer allowing grain-based desserts to be part of a reimbursable meal for preschool and child care-age children. FNS adopted definition requested by numerous commenters to use the foods denoted with a superscript 3 or 4 in Exhibit A of USDA's Food Buying Guide for Child Nutrition Programs. FNS revised Exhibit A via a policy memo to be consistent with the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program, which identifies sweet crackers and grain-based desserts. FNS has gathered extensive feedback from stakeholders on the inclusion of Exhibit A in order to understand the issues with implementation and develop technical assistance resources. Stakeholders' feedback shows no longer allowing sweet crackers as part of a reimbursable meal would be particularly challenging compared to other grain-based desserts. As a result, Exhibit A has been revised to exclude sweet crackers from being designated as a grain-based dessert for the preschool population only. FNS encourages program operators to serve sweet crackers to preschoolers on a limited basis because of the higher sugar content. This revision does not change the designation of sweet crackers for the K through 12 meal pattern requirements. Preschool operators may continue to serve grain-based desserts as an additional food item that is not part of the reimbursable meal for celebrations and other special occasions. I wanted to take a moment just to apologize. I understand that some of you have had some audio difficulties, and I want to remind everyone that we are recording this webinar, and it will be available soon. So you will have an opportunity to see what you may have missed if your audio did go out. While the final rule did not change the record-keeping requirements for preschools, FNS has received numerous questions regarding the monitoring and documentation of the updated meal pattern requirements. In response, FNS provided a clarification on how meals must be monitored and documented. Preschool operators must show they are serving meals that meet the meal pattern requirements by keeping records of menus. State agencies may determine other types of acceptable record-keeping documents required to demonstrate compliance with meal pattern requirements. To the extent practicable, state agencies should not impose additional paperwork requirements to demonstrate compliance with the updated meal patterns. Rather, FNS encourages state agencies to maintain current requirements or updating existing forms to avoid additional paperwork. These first two links take you to all current policy memos for schools and child care, which are listed in the order of release and are searchable by year. The third link takes you to the Guidance and Technical Assistance section, which provides resources that help state agencies, child care centers, and preschools implement the updated infant and preschool meal patterns. We'll continue adding to it as more resources are released. We are working on a guidance document that will place all of the updated meal pattern memorandum regarding the infant, preschool, and child care policy memoranda in one easy-to-find document for program operators. Here is an example of a tip sheet that can be found on the Guidance and Technical Assistance page URL from the previous slide. Okay, we'd like to address some of the common questions that we've been receiving over the past few months. Does the flavored milk flexibility outlined in SP 32/2017 school meal flexibilities for school year 2017-2018 extend to the preschool meal patterns? No, this does not extend to the preschool meal pattern. Beginning this past October 1st, flavored milk cannot be part of a preschool reimbursable meal. Preschoolers must serve either unflavored low-fat or unflavored fat-free milk. It looks like there may have been someone submitting a question about whether it counts for professional standards. Oh, there was a question that came up that wanting to know if this webinar would count towards professional standards, and the answer to that is yes. Okay, if a 5-year-old student in a preschool, which meal patterns does the school follow for that student? While the age range for preschoolers is 1 through 4 years old, and the age range for K through 5 is 5 through 10 years old, schools must always follow the meal pattern that is appropriate for the grade of the student, not the age of the student. Information has been added to the school year 2017-2018 Administrative Review Manual in the section Meal Pattern and Nutritional Quality, including applicable forms and tools for reviewers. The review process will be consistent with past years in the review of other grade groups. Beginning this past October 1st, when schools must comply with the updated infant and preschool meal patterns, state agencies will assess infant and preschool meals in accordance with the updated meal pattern for those grade groups. As a reminder, during the transition period, state agencies must provide technical assistance in lieu of fiscal action when they observe violations related to the updated meal pattern requirements for infants and preschoolers. If a school serves National School Lunch Program lunch and National School Lunch Program after-school snack service to preschoolers, and the snack contains a grain, does the grain at snack have to be whole grain rich? Under the updated preschool meal patterns, only one grain over the course of the day must be whole grain rich. Of course, schools are not required to serve a grain from the National School Lunch Program after-school snack service. The school may offer a reimbursable snack with a fruit and a vegetable, milk and a fruit, a meat alternate and a vegetable, and so forth. If the school chooses not to serve a grain item during after-school snack for preschoolers, then the grain item at lunch must be whole grain rich. If a school serves preschool National School Lunch Program lunch and a Cacfp snack, both of those meals may contain juice. In situations when a school serves preschool lunch and a Cacfp snack or meal, F&S encourages the school to serve juice only once per day as a best practice. While juice can be part of a healthful diet, it lacks dietary fiber found in other forms of fruit. When consumed in excess, juice can contribute to extra calories. Additionally, the dietary guidelines for Americans align with the recommendation from the American Academy of Pediatrics that young children consume no more than 4 to 6 fluid ounces of 100% fruit juice per day. Okay, let's talk about resources for a few minutes. F&S is assessing school program operator interest in formal training for the updated infant and preschool meal patterns during the first year of implementation through webinars such as this and through questions that are shared with our regional offices, from state agencies, and from school program operators. F&S has developed and released some materials to help state agencies, schools, child care sponsors, centers, and daycare homes become familiar with the updated infant and preschool meal patterns. Other materials are in the process of being released or revised based on implementation feedback. Using the chat box for this webinar, please share which of the following training formats interests you most. You may submit more than one lettered response using the chat box. A, for in-person with the Institute of Child Nutrition at the University of Mississippi. B, online training modules. C, in-person with ICN at your location. Or D, not interested in additional training on the infant and preschool meal pattern topic. Let's take a few minutes to give you some time to respond to that using the webinar chat box. Okay, thank you very much for responding to that sort of quick survey. A lot of people are responding, and it looks like there are about 414 of you online listening to the webinar, so that's very exciting. I'm going to go ahead and start talking about technical assistance resources. Through the Team Nutrition Initiative, F&S has been updating and developing technical assistance materials to help with implementation of the updated meal patterns. These materials include the Food Buying Guide. The Food Buying Guide is a technical resource that serves as the essential tool for food yield information for all child nutrition programs offered by USDA. The Food Buying Guide is used to obtain information for purchasing the required quantities of food and for determining the contribution each food makes towards the meal pattern requirements. An exciting web-based tool was created to enhance the current functionalities of the Food Buying Guide. The new tool includes food yield search and navigation features, including the capability to search within food groups and food categories, compare food yield information, and the ability to create and save a favorite foods list. The Food Buying Guide interactive online tool also incorporates two other exciting features. Manufacturers' Product Formulation Statements Workbook allows food manufacturers to easily search and populate selected food items into the workbook, calculate their product's meal pattern contribution statement, and generate a certified document that provides crediting information for child nutrition program operators. Also, the Recipe Analysis Workbook
allows users to determine the meal pattern contribution for a recipe. Stay tuned for the release of the Food Buying Guide publication and a highly anticipated Food Buying Guide mobile app. Multicultural Recipes Project for Infant and Preschool Meal Patterns. We know from a 2013 needs assessment that preschool providers want more recipes that reflect different cultures. So we have been working on standardizing 40 new recipes for preschools with recipes that reflect cultures from all over the world. These recipes will be available in yields of 6 servings, 25 servings, and 50 servings. 25 recipes have been released and are currently available on the Team Nutrition website. The remaining 15 will be released in January 2018. USDA standardized recipes for child nutrition programs for the National School Lunch Program, the School Breakfast Program, K through 12 meal patterns. Team Nutrition is in the process of creating 200 USDA recipes for National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program, and preschool operators. These recipes have been standardized to ensure consistent yields for quantities of 25 to 50 and for 50 to 100. The original USDA recipes for schools and childcare have been transformed to include more whole grains, dark green and red-orange vegetables, and beans, peas, and legumes in creative and delicious ways that include ethnic and regional recipes. The multicultural recipes and child nutrition standardized recipes will be made available on USDA What's Cooking website at what'scooking.fns.usda.gov. The Professional Standards Training Tracker Tool 2.0, a tool for school nutrition programs that tracks all training for an individual or an entire staff of professional standards requirements. It includes several fantastic time-saving features such as tracking training hours for individuals or multiple employees, running reports, uploading training certificates, and auto-populating school and training information, among other benefits for managers and staff. This resource is available at the website listed on the slide. Feeding Infants, a new guide for childcare and preschool providers, incorporates the latest nutrition science and updated infant meal patterns, supports and encourages breastfeeding, includes ways to engage and communicate with parents, features a list of creditable infant foods, and is expected during the late summer of 2018. On the Team Nutrition Cacfp Meal Pattern Training Tool website, you can find the Growing a Healthier Future infographic, which is designed to generate awareness about how changes to the infant and preschool meal patterns help support children's learning, growth, and health, and training worksheets designed especially to help empower infant and preschool providers with the knowledge, skills, and expertise needed to implement the updated meal patterns. You can also find the Serve Tasty and Healthy Foods poster series, which use photographs taken especially for child nutrition audiences and show a reimbursable breakfast, lunch, supper, and National School Lunch Program snack for preschool and other age grade groups. Currently, the infographic training worksheets on choosing yogurts that are lower in added sugars, choosing breakfast cereals that are lower in added sugars, and serving milk in the Cacfp, and the posters are available in both English and Spanish on Team Nutrition's website. Print versions of materials are available to order for free for those participating in child nutrition programs. Additional worksheets are in development and will be released in phases. These worksheets address grain-based desserts, identifying whole grain-rich foods, serving meat or meat alternates in place of grains at breakfast, methods of healthy cooking that do not involve deep fat frying, among others. As you can see, our worksheets are visually appealing and include the use of charts to help program operators determine if a yogurt meets the sugar limit, as well as includes a space for the user to write down favorite brands and types of yogurt to purchase. A similar worksheet is also available to help determine if a breakfast cereal meets the sugar limit. The Serving Milk in the Cacfp worksheet clearly outlines the types of milk allowed for each age group and also includes information on serving flavored milk. The back of the worksheet includes scenarios that users can complete to test their understanding of milk requirements for preschools and childcare.
Okay. We have a few minutes, I think, that we can start to look at some of the questions that you have submitted during the course of the webinar. I have a few that I can start with as we look through them and identify some to share with you as a group. I'll start with, does commingling extend to the National School Lunch Program after school snack service?
Hi, everyone. This is Laura Carroll, as Tim introduced me earlier, but this is the first time you're hearing my voice. We get a lot of questions about what's considered a service area, and that refers to the place where students pick up or choose their meal items. And in determining whether the service area qualifies as being the same for commingling purposes, schools should consider how difficult it would be to provide each age group the proper foods and portion sizes according to the grade-appropriate meal patterns. Factors such as being able to distinguish the preschoolers from older children and switching out line items between groups can be taken into consideration. And if the school does determine that their service area cannot be adapted to appropriately serve different meal patterns to different age groups, the commingling flexibility may apply. And schools, we always encourage them to work with their state agency to determine if commingling applies to their situation.
Here's another one. Just no juice at snack or breakfast and lunch for infants 6 to 11 months of age?
Yeah, I think this person is asking just to clarify the juice requirement. So juice is not allowed at all for infants, and juice is allowed once per day for preschoolers. So if you were serving preschool breakfast and lunch, then you could serve juice at breakfast but not at lunch, and vice versa.
Here's another question. Do we need to provide 2 choices of milk still for this population?
Not for the preschoolers, no.
What are examples of grain-based desserts?
Oh, there are lots of examples of grain-based desserts. So that includes cookies, cakes, brownies. It includes donuts, toaster pastries. The full list of grain-based desserts is in Exhibit A, as Tim mentioned before.
If preschoolers are commingled with K through 5, can they have flavored milk?
Yes. When preschoolers are commingled with the K through 5 students and the school chooses to follow the K through 5 meal pattern, they are able to serve flavored milk and the full K through 5 meal patterns.
Can preschool students have flavored fat-free milk?
No, under the preschool meal patterns, no flavored milk is allowed whatsoever. The only situation preschoolers would be able to have flavored milk served to them is if they are commingled and the school is choosing to follow the K through 5 meal pattern.
Is there any infant formula that counts for the infant meal pattern that can be reimbursed?
Yes, there are lots of different infant formulas that are creditable in the school lunch and Cacfp meal patterns. So formulas that are iron fortified and are regulated by the Food and Drug Administration are creditable. And we do have a full meal memo on infant meals and clarifies how to identify a infant formula that is creditable. So that is in the Cacfp policy page on the FNS website.
If you have both a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old in preschool, are you supposed to follow the preschool meal pattern?
Yes, as Tim mentioned before, when you have so the pre-K age group for that grade group is 1 through 4, but if you have a 5-year-old there, you still follow the preschool meal pattern. You should always default to the grade versus the age of the children.
What is preschool and K through 5?
So if they're commingled, then you can choose to serve either the age-appropriate, the grade-appropriate meal patterns, or follow the K through 5 meal patterns for both of them.
I would add, too, that if you're in a school where you have decided to take advantage of where the lunch meal patterns overlap for K through 5 and 6th through 8th grade, if you're serving preschools in the same food service area, preschoolers in the same food service area as the K through 5/K through 8th grade, that also is equivalent to a commingling situation where you can take advantage of the single menu.
flexibility.
Yes, that is true. That's a good clarification.
If I file claims for reimbursement under the National School Lunch Program and have a satellite for 4-year-old preschoolers, can they have flavored milk?
So I think if I'm understanding this question correctly, the preschoolers are in a separate area. That's how I'm understanding the term satellite. In that situation, if they're completely separated from the K through 5 students, then that would not be considered a commingling situation, so they would not be able to have flavored milk and follow the K through 5 meal patterns.
Okay, there's some more time for us to answer some questions. If you will, just give me a few minutes to read through what we have here, and I'll be right back on to address some more questions that you have. And thank you for submitting those questions. We're going to be back in just a moment.
Hi all, we're just continuing to scroll. We'll be with you in one moment. Thanks for your patience.
Okay, here's a question. Someone is asking for clarification. Can we serve a meat alternate product, such as yogurt, on the menu without the need for grains first?
Sure, and I presume this is talking about in the situation for breakfast. So I'm going to answer the question in that context as well. So yes, under the updated preschool meal patterns, a meat alternate or meat can substitute for the grains component completely up to 3 times per week, and there's no need to serve any grain item during that meal. So that is a little bit different than what's required for the older grade groups in school lunch program.
Please provide clarification if the new interim rule related to low-fat flavored milk is being allowed in the Cacfp.
Yes, the interim final rule does allow for low-fat flavored milk to be served to 6-year-olds and older starting at the beginning of the school year, which is July 1st of 1819. Hi, so there's also a question about calorie ranges for preschool meal patterns and wondering if there are any calorie requirements for preschool meal patterns. No, there are no calorie requirements like there are for older grade groups in the school meal patterns for pre-K meals. The serving sizes and portions in the meal patterns are minimum serving, so you do have to follow that.
Can the decision be made to only serve non-flavored milk to preschoolers in a commingled situation?
Yes, that is definitely a decision that the school can choose to make.
For the special milk program, can you serve flavored milk?
Yes, flavored milk can be served to children 6 years old and older in the special milk program.
If there are two different groups of preschoolers, may each group have a juice one time, or may juice only be served once a day over the course of the entire day?
So if a school has sort of a AM session for preschoolers and a PM session for preschoolers, they can make the decision to treat those as two different programs and therefore serve juice in the AM session and juice in the PM session. In that situation, they would then also be required to serve a whole grain rich grain at the AM session and one in the PM session when a grain is served. So that choice is up to them.
Are graham crackers okay for snacks during the National School Lunch Program after school snack service?
Graham crackers are considered a grain-based dessert in the national school, the grade groups K through 12. So they can be served up to 2 ounces per week in the after-school lunch program. Graham crackers are not considered grain-based desserts for preschools or Cacfp though. So they could be served with no restrictions in preschool and Cacfp at-risk after-school programs.
And just to clarify, the limitation on grain-based desserts for K through 12th graders is during lunch only.
So we've got a couple of questions about offer versus serve. Yeah, so if a preschool is commingled with K through 5 students and the school chooses to follow the K through 5 meal patterns, can they do offer versus serve? And in that situation, if they're following the K through 5 meal patterns, yes, they can do offer versus serve.
There's a question that says, where can the vendor have the formulation statement formulated? I believe what we're talking about is product formulation statements, and the new interactive web-based food buying guide has a new functionality that allows manufacturers
the ability to design product formulation statements and print them on letterhead and certify them for program operators. Just in case you haven't seen that, the slide that talks about the technical assistance where we listed the food buying guide, the link to that food buying guide is the interactive food buying guide. Ready? Here's a question about deep fat frying. Is deep fat frying not allowed on site for kids in grades K through 12?
Deep fat frying on site for grades K through 12 is allowed. It is only not allowed for the pre-K meal patterns.
I would add to that the meal patterns for grades K through 12 have dietary specifications for the weekly menu, and so as long as foods that are included on the menu stay within the dietary specifications, then that's how you would know. You'd have to swap out foods and add other foods in order to make that menu cycle fit within the dietary specification. Is family style serving mandatory? How do you serve family style without offer versus serve?
Family style meal service is not mandatory. It is just an option, and we do encourage it for preschool and Cacfp, but again, it's completely optional. There are some situations that where Head Start, they do require family style meal service, but that is under a Head Start requirement, not a school meal pattern, the school lunch or Cacfp requirements. And family style meal service and OVS are two different types of meal service, so they have different requirements, and we actually put out a memo on distinguishing those two for Cacfp, which can be pretty helpful, as a nice little chart comparing the differences, and again, that can be found on the Cacfp policy webpage.
Also, the offer versus serve manual that is found with our policy guidance has a section that is specifically devoted to family style food service. So take a look at that. What is the max served versus the min?
Yes, so that's what I'm assuming is referring to the portion sizes. So in preschool meal patterns, there are no maximums for portion sizes, there are only minimums.
Here's a question that says, so we are not required to provide 2 choices of milk under the National School Lunch Program, not the Cacfp program, for 4-year-olds that are not commingled?
Correct. When the preschool meal patterns does not require 2 choices of milks to be served. If a school has preschoolers and K through 5 students commingled and they choose to follow the K through 5 meal patterns, then choices would be required, but they are not required under the preschool meal pattern.
My special milk program is preschool kids under age 5, so I cannot serve flavored milk because of their age.
Correct. In the special milk program, children 0 through 5 are not allowed to be served flavored milk. It is only allowable for children 6 years old and older. Hi again. Sorry for the pause. We are just reading through these questions.
Also, there's a bunch of folks letting us know that they had missed part of it or wanted to know something that I had said that maybe they missed for one reason or another. And I just wanted to remind you that this webinar is being recorded and you will have an opportunity to review it at your leisure. Okay, we have time for one more, and I would like to end by thanking everyone for participating in today's webinar. It looked like at the most we had up to close to 500 participants listening in. I'm going to end with this question. Does commingling extend to the National School Lunch Program after-school snack service? The option for commingling does extend to the after-school setting for the National School Lunch Program after-school snack service, not the Cacfp at-risk after-school snack. Although one meal pattern may be used, we encourage sites to limit those items that are not creditable in the standard preschool meal patterns. For example, grain-based desserts. Thank you. Have a great week.